Hey guys, and welcome to Gwent, the Witcher card game. My name is Jaggerous, and today I have another cast for you guys. And this is commentary with crokeyz for the Gwentlemen Open Harvest event. And this is the semi-finals match between Redrame and Unista. And it's a really cool set, so please enjoy. And if you have any feedback on my commentary, I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much, and enjoy the video. How's it going, crokeyz? How you feeling? We got Eredin versus Henselt.
I'm good, yeah. I like Henselt. I think Henselt's really good. I think it's really good for tournaments, and Eredin's quite standard. It's pretty good again. Probably pretty good for tournaments. You're not really high rolling with it. It's mostly just a consistent deck. Henselt, you're really looking to win the coin flip though. The coin flip is pretty important with the Henselt.
I think that's fair to say. The one thing with Eredin is occasionally you'll see very, very unlucky mulligans if people choose to bring, say, Slizzards along with, or Wild Hunt Riders, not Wild Hunt Riders, Wild Hunt Navigators, along with the Frosts with the Frost Hounds. Sometimes they can put themselves into a very unfortunate situation, but kind of unlikely. And similarly, you know, Henselts can have dodgy mulligans depending on what it is that they want to find as their target. So it'll be interesting to see what the opening hands are for these two teams.
Yeah, I think Eredin's probably more at risk of bad opening hand. Henselt has so many targets for his leader ability that I don't think it should ever really be too much of an issue, especially because they're looking to save it for round 3 if they can anyway. So a lot of the time, especially against Eredin, when they're kind of cucking the machines, the Henselt's going to have to push it out round 1, but he'll be trying to hold it as long as he can. So quite interested to see what happens.
For sure, and we'll definitely be seeing Unista try to clear those Henselt targets. It is a very common strategy against Henselt. If he has nothing to shoot, you know, lol, 3-power leader. And with the Frost and the Wild Hunt Drowners, not the Wild Hunt Drowners, the Drowners that we're likely to see, he does actually have the capability of taking out some of those, you know, smaller 6-strength units just using weather and the damage from the Drowner.
Yeah, I think you'll see the Unista probably try and play into the Frost though to prevent Drowners, and you can see he's got 2 Kidwani Sergeants as well, which is obviously really good and especially insane to have it in your opening hand. He's got a pretty good hand actually. He's got one of most of his machines, so a lot of different options with his Henselt. He's got Margarita if he can block the Riders for Iris and stuff like that. So, it's Redrame playing Henselt, okay. Well, yeah, Redrame's hand is pretty good, so we'll go from there.
Yep, it's worth noting that we are unable to see Unista's hand for this matchup. But how do you feel about these Harpies in a Eredin deck?
It's quite interesting, right? I assume he's not just playing the standard kind of Wild Hunt Rider into Iris and Caretaker nonsense. So we'll see what he's playing. I guess he's going to combo that with other Harpies, I imagine. But I don't know how he's going to pull them, except with maybe Ekimaras. That's about it. So you see, you can clear the fog and then clear the frost, and it's a pretty good start for Redrame. Really strange though. So Woodland Spirit, but no Foglet, and Seleno Harpies, but no Unseen Elder. This is a interesting couple of additions to, you know, Eredin. We're seeing the Navigators and we're seeing the Frosthounds, which we predicted, and we can see Redrame stacking the row like you predicted. So kind of an unusual deck coming out of Unista here. Yeah, it's quite weird. The no Foglet is obviously quite strange, but it's not insanely bad because it's just another option for a bad mulligan, you know. So maybe keeping that out, or he might just have it in his hand. To be honest, it's possible. But I would be surprised if he doesn't have it in his hand. I think it's just you don't really want to play Woodland Spirit without Foglet, right? Especially it's like 4 free points. It's just done it as a bronze roach. You'd probably try and play it, but maybe he's went a bit wild and cut it to prevent bad mulligans. I'm not sure.
It's very odd, but I was going to say we do have, you know, the Hand Maven's Blue Dream in the hand of Redrame. New card, and you actually use that to resurrect one of your opponent's gold cards. Although in the case of Redrame, because he's running Dijkstra is a spy, so it goes to your opponent's graveyard, so you can use it to double Dijkstra. But he could also use it now for the Woodland Spirit, as we see. It actually got missed there. I was going to say it got shot by the Ballista, but actually didn't take the hit, although it's probably going to take the hit this time around.
Yeah, I don't think.
Oh my god, he's dodging all of the shots. Look at him.
I don't think he needs to use it on Wooden Spirit though. He's got much better options. He can just save it, and yeah, we see the pass from Unista, and it's just so powerful for Redrame there. He's winning on even with carryover. It's busted.
I mean,
Getting
he just plays ballistas in between. Was that 4 crewmen? So he actually managed to play it so that every single ballista got the maximum number of shots. And I'd be passing out of that round if that happened to me too. It's just a nasty play. But you can see Redrame still with a fairly decent hand in terms of his Kidweni Siege Masters. He can use them to start to replay the battering rams and then deny Unista units. He's got those reinforced siege towers, which rack up a strong number of points, although he did just mulligan into a roach.
Yeah, it's not too bad though when he won the round, round one, so he'll be okay. We'll just mulligan that away. But you see, like, the kind of power of playing Henslot in round one, especially when you win the coin flip. He's won the round uneven, and now he doesn't really care about having these bronze cards in his hand. Like, if he hadn't played Henslot in round one, this hand would be really bad because he's got 2 of each of his machines. He's played a ton of them, so you kind of want to try and save it for round 3, but often it kind of works out okay if you can keep it for round 2, or if you just play it in round 1. And I'm quite interested to see why he's playing out round 2 though.
I think he must want to bleed his deck a little bit. Otherwise, what's his big finisher? Because ideally with Northern Realms, often what you're looking for is like a Shani or a Dijkstra into a lot of units in order to get points on the board. But he's kind of in a position, he doesn't have Natalis, so he doesn't have access to Commander's Horn or reinforcements. That's also in his hand. He hasn't really thinned the deck in the way that he would maybe like. So playing into this round a little bit, it does give him the opportunity to at least play that Reaver Scout and try and improve his draws for the final round. Because the thing is, Unista wants a long round. He's playing Frost, right? He's playing Weather. So The longer the round is for Unista, the better. So maybe Redrame's thinking, if I can bleed him now down to, say, 1 or 2 cards, that's going to give me the advantage and ultimately let me win round 3.
Yeah, and you can see Redrame, even though he's got Ronvid on the board in the middle row, he chose to play the Ram in the back row there, just to play into the Frost, to play around those Drowners. So if Unista does have any Drowners in his hand, they're not going to get too much value from him right now. Like, even if he did use the Drowner to move it into the front row or something, it's only 9 points, and he's already 18 behind. He's going to have to start playing big tempo plays like the Frost, playing the Frost Out Hound there. 4 points, it's really slow. Just gives Redrame time to play these power bronzes and maybe even get more card advantage than he started with here. See the Renew Woodland Spirit though, it's pretty good.
That's the tempo play that he kind of needed in order to close this gap a little bit, such that he doesn't end up in a position with a very large card difference or requiring a lot of cards in order to catch up. But it is worth noting that Redrame is in control here. Redrame can choose how long this round goes, and when you're playing against a Weather deck, that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to dictate how many rounds this Weather takes, because it doesn't really matter to him. There we see him playing the Reaver Scout, thinning his deck, and he's got these big siege towers that he can play and generate a lot of tempo. The one thing you'll notice is he's no longer cares about playing units in the Frost, because now there is fog that they can be moved into, so you no longer have to be playing around that Drowner.
Big Commander's Horn from Unista there, putting him way ahead, and Redrame is kind of at the point where he might have given up his 1 card advantage, but it might be worth it just for the fact that the Frost player isn't getting a long round 3, so we'll see.
Yeah, and we can see him setting up the battering ram there. Basically what he wants to do is weaken a unit enough that if he chooses, I would imagine he's going to play the second battering ram out in between Ronvid and the Siege Master to get that crewman effect and whittle away some more points. Interestingly, Unista playing the Spy there, giving his opponent 12 points, although pulling units into the fog, so it's not as big of a lead as you would expect, and this is really his only opportunity to play the Spy. If you take it into a short round, that's why you mulligan it.
Yeah, I think the Spy was fine there. It only put Redrame about 14 points ahead or something like that, so Unista would always have been able to recover that in 1 card. And now it does have, Unista will have card advantage if Redrame keeps playing, and you see Redrame going for the pass, so I think that's the correct time to pass for Redrame now. He knows that if he keeps playing this out, then he's going to end up getting ruined by Unista's big power plays that will be coming in.
For sure, and this is something I think you have to learn as a player, is when do you pass and just accept the card advantage, because the longer you play, the more chance you give your opponent to catch up, and if they do catch up and you realize you could have passed previously and changed the kind of card differential and you didn't, that's the kind of point where you're going to be kicking yourself. And especially with this Roach in hand, he doesn't really have a lot of other options. He could have played the He could have played the battering ram, maybe, but then with Unista suddenly starting to make these big tempo plays, it's not, I think, something that Redrame wanted.
Yeah, knowing when to pass is probably the biggest kind of skill in Gwent. Redrame had the opportunity at the start of round 2 to open pass. He would have entered round 3 one card up, but instead he's chose to play it out and go in on even cards instead to round 3, but just make sure that it's a shorter round 3 and he doesn't take as much damage from this frost, or allow Unista to build up a ton of units to play his Iris and his Caretaker Iris and that sort of thing. So I think it was well done by Redrame to keep playing it round 2 there.
And we're starting to see those gold cards now in the hands of Redrame. Kind of a happy situation where you pull Natalis and your mulligan doesn't risk you drawing your only tactics card. Because he had the Horn and reinforcements in hand, he was kind of happy with that. Drowner killing Ronvid, but Ronvid, there's no killing Ronvid. He's just coming straight back, chilling on the board, and keeping that crewman available for Redrame, which is actually invaluable. Sometimes the difference of just the one crewman can, it can be the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah, Redrame has blew him into Gales as well. Gales Dijkstra, and Dijkstra obviously he goes for the Woodland Spirit instead. So Dijkstra would have pulled the Silver as well, which would have been pretty strong, but he goes for the Woodland Spirit, which is super weird. And
yeah,
Unista
it's a very strange choice, especially with, knowing Unista had the Drowners, going for that instead of trying to find his Dijkstra and then potentially, pulling something. So I guess he was maybe scared of Thaler.
Maybe, but that wouldn't even be too bad. I don't think. But yeah, I guess he's just got a ton of points, and it opens up his Commander's Horn as well, without him having to kind of wait with that. Otherwise, if he went for the Dijkstra, he would have had to play like the Shani first, and then the Baron Ram, and then go into the Commander's Horn, and it allows Unista to kind of pick off his units or move them with Drowners and stuff. So looks like that was actually the correct play, to go for the Woodland Spirit and just get those tokens on the board for the Commander's Horn.
That is true. That did give him those extra bodies and those extra points. Caretaker coming out here from Unista, and not a lot of great options. Everything's more or less the same. It's going to give you about 10 or so points. So it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, which machine would you like? You can have any of them.
Yeah, you're really looking to kind of Caretaker and Iris, but he's not managed to find it in this game, and it doesn't really look as if he would even have a way to kill it as well, because he's got no frost on the board. These Drowners wouldn't be pushed to Iris in, and yeah, you see the concede. So in the end, quite dominant by Redrame there.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have Wild Hunt Riders, so Iris, typically you see her in conjunction with Wild Hunt Riders in order to set up it so that when you play the Iris, she instantly dies in the Frost, because the Frost then does 3 damage. And because we didn't see them, potentially Unista not running Iris, but kind of a strange Eridan deck in all honesty. I personally kind of prefer the Woodland, not the Woodland Spirit, the Unseen Elder monsters deck that's more common, that kind of consume strategies rather than the Frost strategies, though I know a lot of people do see success with Eridan.
Yeah, Eridan's pretty good, consumes pretty good as well. I think the problem is that he was playing against Henselt. Henselt went second, and Henselt going second is very likely to beat either of those decks, to be honest. So even if he was playing Consume, I don't think it would have made too much difference. But now you do see Henselt against Consume, Unista on Henselt, Redrame on Consume. It's going to be quite interesting. See if it's any different.
Yep, it's worth pointing out that we are using the strike format, and the way that works is instead of banning decks, you ban matchups. So you can see the banned matchups in the middle, and the loser then chooses the next matchup. So Unista has chosen to play Henselt versus Unseen Elder. And then if he wins, then Redrame will pick the next matchup, and if he loses, Unista will pick the next matchup. So that's how this format works.
Yeah, Unista aware that he's favoured here, especially if he's playing things like Margarita and then Shani on Margarita. That sort of thing can really mess with the neckers. You see Yennefer from Redrame, though, that's pretty interesting. Pretty unique tech there.
Yeah, definitely an unusual inclusion, but Redrame is seeing gold at the moment. We see every single gold card in his hand, along with a necker, which is always nice to just have so that you can play that when you like. Sometimes, not often, but sometimes it is actually worth playing it in round 1. Although typically you do want to wait until you've buffed it up to 9 points, because it's such a lovely muzzle target, and muzzle, is a very prevalent card in the current state of Gwent.
Yep, an important ballista there from Unista, preventing the eggs getting pulled, but Redrame's still got 3 targets for his Elder, so he should be able to pull out all 3 Harpies here, if he's got them, which he does. So they'll come out, and this is going to be massive points. Again, the Henselt player getting to go second, and it's going to be really difficult for Redrame here. But this kind of early tempo is going to be really good. Interesting that he was considering going for the Foglet there. That would have stopped the Harpies coming out.
It would have stopped one Harpy for sure.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it's kind of tricky with that matchup because if you kill the wolves, you've denied the beast, but he also killed the eggs, which then created more beasts because Harpies are beasts, even though they're humanoid. That's just how they work in Gwent. So it did provide him with more targets to thin out those Harpies. But on the flip side, we now see the counter side of that is that you have loads of 3 strength units and 4 strength units, and ballistas will just eat them for breakfast.
Yeah, Redrame needs to try and get some sort of carryover down soon because these ballistas and siege masters are just going to demolish all these ones, and Redrame's going to have to try and find a pass at some point, hopefully after Unista uses Henselt. He's probably going to lose this round on even, but if he can lose it on even with some sort of carryover, it might be okay. That's basically his only hope here right now.
It's quite unfortunate. He doesn't have any of his Ekamaras in hand, but what he does have in his deck is Germain of Fox Hollow, so that's definitely part of that Yennefer synergy. And you can see this is actually quite great for him because he's managed to buff up some of those wands so that now it's not in a situation where everything can be shot with the ballistas. Instead, there's a few 5s. It limits the targets a little bit and it takes a little bit of the edge off. And you can see Henselt actually opting to pull the towers. Potentially he does have ballistas in hand, but opting to pull towers for a really big number of points there.
Yeah, getting the towers out of the deck, knowing that the towers will put him ahead, especially after a big Commander Storm play from Redrame. I think that's totally fine because it lets him save these ballistas and siege masters for later on in the round or later on in the game, where those siege masters will probably be less effective. But Unista kind of staying ahead on even cards while keeping his best plays behind is definitely the correct way to go about it, I think.
And Thaler coming out for Redrame, and this puts you in that position where you decide, do I want to go 2 cards down or do I pass and hope that he can't make up the points? And he's only 13 or so points ahead. I mean, there is fog, so that is ticking, so it's actually 15 points. So Unista would need a 16-point play here to make this on even, and actually opting for a summoning circle into another Thaler. So just thinning out his deck and finding the cards that he wants for the future rounds.
Sir. Aye, sir.
You gotta wonder if he had that Scorch in hand or whether he found it with the Thaler.
Well, that's worked out pretty well for him. I love Aye, sir. It's like one of my favourite cards in the game. They're so good. But yeah, that's sick for Unista. He's managed to thin his deck a ton there, draw through into his silvers and his golds, hopefully. But like we said earlier, Redrame finding a really good time to pass there, kind of forcing the Scorch out from Unista early, when he hasn't even built up any of these Neckers or big Ekimaras or Ghouls and stuff like that, forcing out the Scorch and, importantly, having more carryover than Unista, even though he did lose uneven. So Unista with a kind of choice to make now whether to play on. If he plays on in round 2, he might be able to thin out his deck like Redrame done in the last game, but also he's given Redrame a lot of time to build up carryover, which the Eredin deck didn't really have the opportunity to do in the first game. So it's a big difference here, and I think this might be the game where you want to open pass as the Henselt player.
And just take it to the final round and deny that carryover. It does make those Neckers, just that little bit less valuable. And you do see the open pass coming out of Unista. The one thing you got to think about also is with Redrame, with that sort of play, with the Dunbanner Cavalry and the Scorch, that's kind of one of those plays where you're just like, I'm not even mad. Like, I'm kind of impressed that happened. But it does kind of change your mindset a little bit going into the game. Saying that, we do see Redrame drawing that giant toad, and that is a very happy pull for him because it allows him to eat the Manticore, which is sitting in his hand, and then put it into the graveyard, which then gives him a target for the ghoul on his monster's nest, such that he can then eat the Manticore again and earn points. And basically that Manticore's job in life is to be eaten. That's what it does.
Yep, Redrame here sitting with quite an insane hand. Goes for the draw first and pulls a Necker. Unlucky, but you'll see him consume the Manticore almost certainly here, as you said. So he's got two Neckers, which most of the time would be bad, but Unista does have a high chance of maybe having Margarita, so that would allow him to still bring out the third one, because if it did get locked, it'd be pretty screwed, because he'd have to consume it with the Ekimara to pull another one with the Slizzard, and then he wouldn't really have an option to pull the third one. But a decent backup there drawing the second Necker, although he probably would rather get the Germain to go along with his Yennefer.
Yeah, you could see him hovering the 7 strength Necker there and then deciding against it. Wonder if the potential for muzzle is something that kind of put him off there. And actually opting to get that fog out once again and just get those attrition points against Unista.
Yeah, he had the option to go Gilles into either Derogre or Germain. But I think taking the Woodland Spirit there is definitely better. He's still building up a lot of units here for his Yennefer as well. You can see him, he's 2 units ahead so far, and he's got the opportunity. Oh, it looks like he's going to go for the early Yennefer, thinking this is probably the best value he's going to get, which maybe is the correct play actually.
I think so. He can't even pull a Nekomara with this lizard. Actually, I don't think this lizard can pull him anything. He's just got 1 Necker left in the deck and nothing in the graveyard that's left in the deck. So that lizard is just at 3 points. So he doesn't have any other options of cards which play other cards and generating extra units. So in that case, you may as well just take the unicorn when you can, because you don't know if your opponent has cards that play other cards.
Yeah, his only option to get value from this lizard would be if he played Dekimara and Unista killed it somehow. But that is unlikely. Unista's Henselt deck is one which will do a lot of damage, a lot of little increments of damage, but probably wouldn't be killing an Ekimara, which is most likely going to go on a Necker and be kind of 14 points. I don't think Unista will make it through 14 points Ekimara. So it's most likely going to be a dead lizard here.
So we see the inclusion of regular ballistas and reinforced ballistas and no battering rams. How do you feel about the choice of ballistas versus battering rams?
They're kind of similar. Like, they're not too different. I think the ballistas are, or the rams are better probably in this matchup, just allowing you've got a lot of small tokens that you can use for the first ping, and then you can get your full 3 points off in the second one. So I think Unista, if he knew he was playing against Consume, would probably put rams in there, but the ballistas are fine.
For sure, this is a tournament format, and you're going to probably go with what is maybe a little bit more consistent, and I would say that the ballistas are more consistent, even if the battering rams give you 1 or 2 more points. It's not a huge difference that it would make sense. You know, it would be stupid to run, say the reinforced ballistas versus the catapults. Not catapults, battering rams. Nobody runs catapults. But we see a ballista, speaking of ballistas, coming out and wiping off a lot of points from Redrame.
Yep, and then you see Redrame playing his dead Slizzard, which he's obviously sad about. Out comes the Bork, and that is just GG. No chance for Redrame now, unfortunately.
Yeah, just nothing he can do. And he's got the Ghoul into the Manticore, which is a 17-point play. But when you know that you're losing 18 points and your opponent has 2 cards left, it's got to be hard. You know, he doesn't make it up. Even if he plays 15. Wait, 14 and 13. 17. If he plays 17, it just burns. So unless Unista has literally no points, Redrame loses. Yeah,
he gets the double buff on the Neckers, but yeah, basically that's why you can see him kind of hovering the concede button already, which I'm a big fan of. But there's nothing really that Unista can possibly have here that will make him lose.
And that's all she wrote there. He's going to go for the Ghoul. I mean, there's 2 14s, so he's going to have to eat it and protect them, basically, right? You're going to take that 13 eat and use the Ghoul as the sacrificial lamb in this situation. But you're taking a 20-point burn, so even then you're sitting at 50 points, and it's not enough.
Yeah, the only way Redrame really had a chance there would be if he played a Rotfiend earlier with the Monster's Nest and maybe kept his Ekimara. Maybe if he expected the Bork, he could have done that and got a lot of value in the middle row from the Rotfiend. But yeah, let's rip 3 14s. See ya.
Oh, so much burning. Like, Unista is literally on fire this matchup. We saw that double Thaler Scorch, and then the villain Tretinmouth coming out and just eating everyone for breakfast. And I think that's maybe also part of the inclusion of the ballistas versus the reinforced ballistas versus the battering rams, in that you do get those 2-point shots, so you can use them to very precisely set the strengths of units, such that if you're playing stuff like villain Tretinmouth and Scorch, that you can maximize your points.
Yeah, now that we saw him playing the Bork, it makes a lot more sense that he went for that kind of double Thaler play into the Scorch in round 2. Kind of blown his Scorch early, but knowing that he had the Bork to fall back on, that's a lot more reasonable. For
sure, and it's not a standard inclusion in Henselt. I don't think he actually was running Shani in that situation, for example. He's opted to go for this kind of Villain Trethemeth, like, burning strategy, and it's a really cool strategy to see, and, you know, I really hope that it's not something that expands onto their ladder, should we say, because I really do hate Villain Trethemeth with a burning passion.
Yeah, and next matchup's going to be Redrame's Emir against Unista playing his Henselt again. I'm excited to see Redrame play Spies. I don't know about you, but I think Spies is quite a good deck. I'm not too sure. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like, I don't know. They're okay, right? I mean, what do? They play little 2-strength units and then find cards. I mean, it's okay. I think it's a deck that, you know, maybe not many people have tried out, and we'll see kind of how it turns out.
Yeah, and it's 2 points to your opponent as well. So you give your opponent points. It's kind of weird, but I don't know. Some people manage to make it work.
I know you give your opponent points and you don't even draw cards most of the time. Like, you don't draw extra cards. So why would you want to do that? In all seriousness, no. Redrame running a summoning circle in this deck. How do you feel about that?
I am a big fan of Summoning Circle. I tried it in Spies and it seemed to work quite well, but it can be difficult. It's mostly just you can really abuse, like, if you win the coin flip. So I'm surprised to not see Redrame go for just like Rainfarn into Cantarella, and then if Unista plays Thaler, he can just answer with Summoning Circle and pick up the Spy, which is just absolutely broken. But it looks like he's gonna go for that later on in the game, which is interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, he's sitting on gold, basically. He's got a gold mine. He's got Cahir, he's got Rainfarn, he's got Menno, and he's got Vilgefort. So lots of kind of different options for him. The one thing he doesn't have, though, is emissaries, other than Silak, although opting to play that Cahir, and we'll see him pick up that Silak. And that basically is going to get this kind of emissary chain rolling. And once you have a few emissaries on the board, then it starts to thin your deck, and this is kind of how Spies gets going, and then it's kind of like a boulder that no one can stop.
Yep, really important for Spies to win the coin flip in this matchup. Actually, it's one of the kind of rare matchups where they can really lose out a lot of power, especially with, as you can see, Henselt just dropping like 29-point Henselt that was there, thinning his deck by 2. It's pretty good. So Redrame's going to have to go for a big power play here. He might have to use the Emir into the Silak to get the points, although he would be wanting to try and save that Emir so that he can then abuse this Summoning Circle, which is basically the entire reason it's in the deck. So if he is forced to use the Emir here, which he might be because of that kind of power play from Unista, it's going to be a bit unfortunate for him.
Yeah, he does have the option of the Vicavaro medic into the emissary that he just killed. However, that's obviously a lot fewer points, whereas with Emir, the extra bonus of Emir is you're putting 7 points on the board. Like, yes, he's going to play the Silak and then pick it back up, so you don't get the points of the Silak, but you get those 7 extra points of the Emir. And when you're not entirely sure what you're going to be pulling here, that's really beneficial. And really unfortunate, Redrame not found any emissaries that he included other than the Silak ones.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, especially with these 2 enforcers out as well. And he's not found any of his Imperial Brigades or anything either. Oh, he's just pulled the Roach. Oh my god. He's just picked up the Roach.
Oh, those emotes. Clearly
no.
That wasn't what he intended to do. Admittedly, he can mulligan the Roach and use it as part of extra points for Rainfarn when he goes for his Joachim or his Cantarella. Alternatively, you know, he does. I was going to say he does have there's the emissaries. He does have the Vicavaro, so hopefully he can start chaining those emissaries now. And he's actually put 2 of them in the graveyard, so he could have opted there for the Vicavaro and then continue to try and chain cards out of his deck and amass Spies on the board.
I mean, that might have been a 10,000 IQ master BM, because it did kind of force an instant pass from Unista, and he's winning 1 card down, which is not too bad in Spies if he goes into long round 3 here, and especially because the Henselts came out. I mean, I'm pretty sure he didn't do it on purpose, but if he did do it on purpose, it might be the best play I've ever seen.
It might be that bamboozle with the damn it as well, so that Unista thinks he messed up, because
yeah,
you know, this is the thing with Gwent. We do have our emotes. Most of them are a bit unkind, but there's definitely a kind of mind game involved, and the way you can use them, you could potentially use them to put your opponent on tilt. There's Roach we see coming out with the Rainfarn into Cantarella, and this is, you know, really it's a really strong play because he's got Menno in hand. You know, he can comfortably remove those points. He's giving himself card advantage, and because he's in control of the round, you know, he can always save the Menno for later depending on what he wants to do. And do you reckon we'll see another summoning circle here?
Yep, I think you'll definitely see one, and this is where Redrame's kind of punished for playing that Emir earlier on. If he had the Emir, he could play this Summoning Circle, pick up the Cantarella, and play a third one, and that's what kind of really makes the Summoning Circle dominant in Spies, and basically the only reason why he would use it. But I mean, it kind of cancels it out, because that pulling back that Roach has actually worked out insanely well for him, and it's really weird.
Well, we do have a bit of a Cantarella party going on here. Premium Cantarella, no less, with all of those units on the board. But only one Menno, so then he has to decide which Cantarella he's going to kill. And, that's a difficult choice. Although I think Vilgo Forts is about to burn Rainfarn into, 1,000 crispy pieces. And we'll see what... Oh, he's chosen not to play it, actually.
Yeah, Redrame only 4 cards. He's only got 4 cards left in the deck. 2 of them are still emissaries, so he can maybe thin through his whole deck here, and then kind of play a Seer at the end of the round and get a perfect kind of Joachim in round 3, which would be really nice for him. I would be surprised if you don't see him pull his whole deck and then go into a Seer here. Especially he's still got 2 emissaries in his bottom 3. It's really unfortunate for him, but I think, I can't believe that Roach thing.
Well, he's basically guaranteed emissaries now with the emissaries he intends to resurrect with the Vic of Varro. So if he resurrects a Vic of Varro, he can actually thin, like you said, his entire deck, and then get that Infiltrator. And at that point, he can decide what he wants in his deck for the Mulligan, which means he's guaranteed. He can guarantee his Joachim pull, and he can guarantee the card that he draws. So he has a lot of control in terms of what he plays in the final round. And because he's in control here, it does give him that opportunity to play whatever he wants. And because we know that he's then going to thin out these emissaries plus resurrecting one, he's actually got a hell of a lot of points in hand with the Imperial Enforcer and the 2 Imperial Brigades.
Yeah, you might see him play the Seer early here and put like Enforcers or Brigades back in, because right now he can thin his entire deck with 1 medic, but if he plays those Brigades, then he can mulligan the Nausicaa Brigade at the start of round 3, guaranteed to pull that from the Joachim, and that's just a massive play in round 3. And I think you'll actually see him play Menno this round as well. He knows that he can push here a bit, especially with Unista having spent his Hensout with only 1 crewman on the board as well. He's not got too much to worry about. But interestingly, you see him not pull the emissaries out, instead going for the Siege Tower.
That is true. That is, 10 points. I mean, admittedly, he only needs to resurrect 1 more emissary, So the Siege Tower, he's got an extra Vic of Varro medic in terms of his res. So going for the Siege Tower, that gives him points, and it puts pressure on Unista. Because if you're keeping up in tempo, then Unista's going to want to be making bigger plays than if Redrame was lagging behind. So I think taking the Siege Tower before you take these emissaries, which we see now, is fine, because he only needed 1 emissary in order to completely thin his deck. So ultimately, it was up to him what he chose to pull.
Yep, and he was guaranteed to hit an emissary with the first one that he played from the medic, and it's quite interesting. I think he's trying to wait on the Asir maybe until the Roach gets played, but that would be kind of weird. Yeah, he can't put Roach back in now, actually, because he did decide to thin his whole deck there. So yeah, I'm surprised that he didn't play the Enforcer before he did that, though. I guess he's just he's valuing blocking those crewman pockets more than getting those hits on the Enforcers, because now his Enforcer's obviously pretty weak.
I think he's just trying to feel out, whether or not he's going for a 2-0 here. I mean, by making those crewman pockets smaller, you are denying a fair amount of value. Is it equal to the value you would get out of an Enforcer? Not necessarily. It depends, honestly, on what machines Unista chooses to play.
Yeah, he chose to play the Nausicaa Brigade there, Redrame, which means he's most likely not going to get that back in his deck with a Seer, because I can't see Unista killing it. So I'm interested to see on what he's going to Seer, because he does have to Seer this round. He needs to get 1 card in his deck to draw and another one to pull with Joachim. See what he goes for. Obviously he could go with Selak and just go into an Ambassador, but which you might see him do.
I mean, Selak into Ambassador is a decent number of points, so it's not a bad call. And here, he can kind of pick more or less whatever. Like the Nausicaa is nice because you have that option to kill. He's got one in hand though. Because you have the option to kill Joachim with the Nausicaa, but it's not necessary. I mean, it gives so many points anyway that it's kind of fine. And we do see those Dunvanna cavalry coming out once again, the Dunvanna light cavalry, but only 2 of them, which means Redrame now knows that Unista is sitting with a 4-point card in hand, and sitting 11 points ahead at this stage. That might encourage him to just push and maybe go for a 2-0.
Yeah, he might try and go for a 2-0 here. I think Redrame seeing that 3rd cavalry in Unista's hand is going to make him regret playing those emissaries before he had the Enforcer out. You see him there just dropping it as an 8-point bronze, and then Unista answering with, obviously, like, what's that, like 10, 14 or something like that. So
but Redrame has huge tempo plays. He's sitting on a Impera, which is worth, 16? There's 5 spies on the board, I believe, plus Menno, which is worth 19, plus Joachim. Like, at this stage, you got to be tempted to really start to push and see whether Unista can answer, because if Unista can't answer at this stage, I would be tempted to go for that 2-0.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Redrame does if he does play the Joachim this round. If he pulls the Selak, he might just go for the emissary and thin himself down to 0 and just accept that he's not drawn anything round 3 and just really go for that 2-0 instead of going for the ambassador, which would be the most points to go that route. But then obviously he's totally all in, and Unista having 2 cards behind here, an extra 2 cards, it's really risky. He might just save the Joachim for round 3 and just play the Menno for 19 here.
It is 2 cards, but one of them is a 4. That's the thing that for me kind of gets it, because I guess we have to start to think of what tempo plays does Unista have, and obviously he has the Dijkstra, and he does also have the Scorch and the Vilgefortz we saw. So those 16s aren't looking so, they aren't looking so comfortable necessarily, but I still think it's in a situation where Redrame can try and bleed and kind of get a feel for what Unista has in hand, and then kind of make a read at about this stage. I think he'll play Menno, because it's unlikely that he'd hold that unless he's worried about Vilgefortz. Villain Trastenmirth, because he could pass here and then guarantee the draw of Infiltrator, which means he can counter Villain Trastenmirth. So he might pass and keep the Menno. But then, this is where we would know whether Unista has the Villain Trastenmirth or not.
Yeah, and then you see him going for the Joachim, so he's just kind of all in. But he does have the Selak now, so even if it does go to round 3 here, he will have the Selak into Ambassador, which is obviously pretty good. That's a lot of points there on the Joachim. Unista actually got a really good DJ to catch up and get ahead, but it's just with 2 brigades and the Enforcer on the board, it's just insane for Redrame. He plays the Bork now, and then you'll probably see Redrame just pass.
Yeah, you would pass here. You've got 40 points on the board that can just get burned. At this point, you just want to force your opponent to catch up. And with, 14 points, I think, needed to make that play, there's 7, 8, 9, 11. So I guess he has to play his little 4-point light cavalry as well in order to get this.
So bad.
And that's Redrame's game. There's no way you catch up with, a Menno and a Selak.
Yeah,
with
so
one card.
Selak's going to be 10 points, Menno will be 12, and there's no way Unista does 23 in one card.
And Unista goes first. So even if he draws, say, a Scorch, then he Scorches nothing. Like, we might even just see him throw out the Scorch here. Okay, he Scorches Ronvid. I stand corrected.
Redrame winning this game with the god play of picking up the Roach. Absolutely crazy.
Oh, man. And the question is, how does Redrame want to win? You can win with Menno, or he's going to kill Ronvid, isn't he? There it goes. And out comes Ronvid.
BM? Always like to see some BM.
Oh, you got to go for it. If you have an option of, like, for example, resurrecting a card, I always try and make it just 1 point ahead of them. I feel like such a terrible person, but I kind of do that anyway. It kind of makes me feel good inside.
I mean, if you win the game, you've earned the right to BM, in my opinion.
Fair enough. But unfortunate, I think, for Unista sitting with that cavalry in hand. That, 4 points, he had to play it because he didn't have any better options in terms of making up the tempo. And honestly, Nilfgaard spies, their tempo is just insane. We saw the option of the Menno, we saw that massive Impera get played, and because Imperas, they're based on the number of spies on the board, so you can play them late and they'll still be as many points as if you play them early, provided the spies don't die. So a lot of value there, plus the Joachim. Chat's going to keep making fun of me for that. What do you want me to say? Joachim? Whatever. It's a tough deck to beat.
Yep, Spies is pretty good. Yeah, and I really like the summoning circle from Redrame as well. As I said, I've tried it myself, and when you can get that kind of combo off where you play your spy, they respond with their spy, you summoning circle and pick up their spy with Emir, especially after you've won round one, you can get some really nasty card advantage. And if you've got a card advantage as spies, you're almost guaranteed to win because you're really likely to win even without card advantage. So I think it's a really good tech. It's a little bit inconsistent and can be a little bit awkward, especially if you can't use it on another spy and you're forced to use it on, like for example, if he maybe had to use it on a ram or something like that, it would or a ballista, it would have been a lot worse. But when it comes off, it's game winning for sure.
Yeah, and we actually saw it included in the Hensel deck as well, because that's how we ended up with the Cantarella party, 3 Cantarellas. But up next, Unseen Elder on the side of Redrame versus Unista's King Bram. And interestingly, Redrame actually hasn't brought Skellige to this tournament.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. I mean, Skellige, I think just bringing King Bran, Skellige is really good as, especially in the tournament format. I think Skellige is really good as an opener and just playing your first game. In Strike, it's a bit different, but if you're playing Conquest, if you just open up with Bran, it's normally quite safe because it's not going to dominate anything, kind of like 70-30. It's mostly a lot of like kind of 55-45, 60-40 matchups, and you're unlikely to get blown out in game one, which is kind of what you want to do in Conquest. But in Strike, it's a bit different. So maybe Redrame looking forward to day 2 and deciding that it's not that good in Strike format, which is interesting, but it's definitely plausible.
So a little bit tricky for Redrame here. No Woodland Spirit and no Giels, which means that getting those Harpies, the regular Harpies, out of his deck is going to be a little bit more tricky than usual. He can always eat the Soleno Harpy, and that will thin 1. So that is an option for him in order to start thinning. And he does have the Toad Prince Manticore combo to then draw. But at this stage, you don't want to be drawing while those Harpies are still in your deck, because if you draw into a Harpy, it can be quite frustrating.
Yeah, he does have the double Ekimara and followed up with the Unseen Elder. Looks like he's going to go for Unseen Elder first, actually. So it shouldn't be too bad. It should be all right. And then he's also got his Giant Toad and Manticore combo, which is basically all you need as consume, and you'll be fine.
That is true. I was going to say he can eat the 1-strike Harpies with the Ekamaras, and that'll pull the remaining Harpies from his deck, though that does open up the Ekamaras to muzzle. And usually you'd prefer to eat Wolves to pull the Harpies and then use the Ekamaras to eat eggs and set up carryover that can't be muzzled.
Yeah, muzzle's pretty dangerous, and that's why you can see Redrame kind of keeping his Necker as well. He probably won't play that Necker until it's above 8 and safely kind of out of range, or basically as high power as he can get it before he has to play it, to kind of avoid this muzzle as much as possible. But it looks like he's pulling out these other Harpies, and he should always have his Ekimaras at 9, but Unista always has the option of going for something like a Harpooner into a muzzle, or there you see the Lugos as well. That's always viable too.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely want to whittle away the carryover. In all honesty, going up against Unseen Elder, it's really, I think, imperative that you win round 1, because if you don't win round 1, they have so much carryover, especially if you don't have great counters to their Neckers. Admittedly, typically we'll see Coral in this deck, and that does counter 1 Necker. But with the way that this deck thins, it is quite easy generally to find a second Necker. There you go. See, so he's got 2 now. So he's got that safety net that if one gets artifact compressed and turned into a Jade figurine, it's okay, he's got that second one, so he can use that to maintain the Death Wish carryover that Neckers provide. And now they're 9 points, which means that they can no longer be muzzled.
Yeah, and this is really good for Redrame because he's kind of staying ahead on even cards. Unista's pulled his Ceres out, and yeah, Redrame's staying ahead on even cards while building up carryover, which is obviously what you want to do as consume. The second Necker in his hand, as you said, gives him protection against Coral and muzzle and that sort of stuff. He's also even got another Ekimara in hand, so looking really good for Redrame right now. And unless Unista's going to have to win this round somehow, and then hope he's either got Udalryk in hand or draws it, because if Redrame goes into round 2 with this much carryover, it's going to be a real problem for Unista if he loses this round 1.
For sure. He does have the problem in that he doesn't have Yennefer or any gold, so the Renew is kind of dead in his hand, and I think having a dead Renew in Gwent Open is a feeling I think you've experienced before, actually, crokeyz.
Yeah.
But somehow managed to dodge. He does also have the what's his name of Fox Hollow? Germain, that's his name. But no Yennefer, so not a card that he's going to want to play. And there comes a Scorch, just to deny that carryover.
And you see Unista getting a lot of points ahead there, which is really good for him, because as I said, it's really important for him to win this round. And there's the Coral and the second Necker being really important here, as you said. But Redrame actually quite a number of points behind, but he's got that Manticore Venom, Manticore in the graveyard as well, so he'll be fine even if Unista passes with his Monster's Nest. The dead Renew kind of coming back to bite him a little bit here, and Unista blocking the carryover there, so now Redrame actually has equal carryover with Unista, which is really bad for him. And you see Redrame passing there. I think Redrame... Oh no, sorry, he's got the Necker. He's got the third Necker as well.
I think you would choose to pass there. He did have that option of the 17-point play with the Monster's Nest, but ultimately it's not a play that, you don't want to make it unless it's going to guarantee you the win, and you don't want to be playing Germain this round, ideally, especially if you're running Yennefer. There's a Gales, and Gales is really nice because it is going to offer him Commander's Horn, and actually there's Woodland Spirit as well, so he's guaranteed the choice of Yennefer or Commander's Horn. He can set up the Commander's Horn with Germain, and he's got the Woodland Spirit as well to put attrition points onto Unista, although because Unista won the round, he is in control of the length of this round, so Fog, it's maybe not that useful compared to a round 1 Fog, for example.
Yeah, the Fog won't be as useful. It's a really good finisher for Redrame here with the Woodland Spirit into Yennefer, but it just depends how much Unista pushes here. Unista really needs to hope he's got Udoric in his hand, or he might be in trouble. But obviously every card that he can bleed from Redrame here is really important. If he's forced to play the Woodland Spirit without getting the Commander's Horn on it, or playing Germain or anything along those lines, it's quite bad for Redrame. I think you might see him actually go into the Ghoul first, just to try and keep this kind of Yennefer and token combo for round 3 if he can, and especially if he plays this big Ghoul, it might tempt Unista into passing when it's going to be obviously massive points for Redrame.
It's interesting that Unista's playing into this round and triggering his Ceres when there are no more Neckers left in Redrame's deck and no more Ekamaras left in Redrame's deck. So, I mean, Redrame, he has no carryover, so Unista does feel comfortable playing into this round. But on the flip side, he's also playing into 10 points, which he could choose to, just pass and ignore and then keep that Resurrect for a future round. So I guess he's feeling confident in the fact that his Morkvarg and his Orgir are going to come back, giving him 2 reses. So he only needs to find another 2 in order to bring her back for round 3.
And you do see Redrame go for the Ghoul there, sacrificing one of his big tempo plays to try and keep this Yennefer finisher that he's got going. He is going to have to play one of his golds, though, to get this Renew in round 3, so I think you'll see him go for the Woodland Spirit next, even before the Germain, even if the Germain is enough, because you really don't want that dead Renew in round 3, and he can't really risk mulligan in the Renew either. Well, he's going to have to, but he's got a chance of pulling Foglet and stuff like that here, and it's going to be pretty bad.
I think the ideal draw for him here is Ekamara, right? Because if he has the Ekamara, he can set up the Renew. So that is going to be what Redrame is looking for. But like you said, he's got a Foglet in there. Seleno Harpy, not a great draw, 7 points. Is he going to take the risk of getting 4 points to try and find something better? He has a lot of big plays, so I feel like I would take the risk.
He has to mulligan Renew. He can't keep it. He can't rely on Unista killing one of his golds. He gets a Slizzard. That's okay. He can pull the Ekimara with that now.
That is true. I mean, when you see the Slizzard like that, though, you would have wished to have mulliganed that Harpy, because Slizzard was one of the targets that would allow him to consume, say, Giel's, or actually Giel's probably would be the target you'd consume, because then it guarantees your Commander's Horn as well as your Yennefer. So then once you have 1 million units on the board, you're in a pretty happy position. And he's gone for the safer mulligan, and I wonder if that's going to cost him the game.
Yeah, the problem here is that he's not guaranteed to get Yennefer anymore, right? He can always get Commander's Horn, which is obviously still good. It's the 21 point gold, but he'd rather get the Yennefer, I think, after playing Germain. So it's a bit of risk reward, but I still think when you've got a dead Renew in your hand like that, and you've got no way to kill it except pulling the Ekimara, you're really playing with fire by not mulliganing it. You just have to.
I mean, I would argue you're in a tournament 2-1 up, and that this is maybe the point where it's okay to take risks.
Yeah, possibly.
Because you had 2 Slizzard, 1 Ekamara, 1 Commander's Horn, 1 Yennefer. and one
Redrame's been
Foglet.
playing. He's been playing like really safe this whole series, though. He's been not passing early round 2, like to take card advantage. He's been playing out round 2 and playing to his win conditions, playing to like the perfect size round 3. And I kind of agree that he shouldn't change that strategy now. And you can see him just lining up these muster units, and then hopefully he finds Yennefer. But even if he finds Commander's Horn, it's still not too bad.
Ooh, 4 units apiece, but he does have the 3 units from the Harpies. I mean, I think that taking this more risky strategy is true. Safer strategy is kind of sensible. But now he does have that 50-50 on Yennefer, and I think when you go for 50-50s, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And with this Resurrect, that is going to pull Ceres out as well. Commander's Horn would give him 20 points. He should be, I guess, killing that 5. So 20 points from Commander's Horn if he gets it. If he gets Commander's Horn, he wins. If he gets Yennefer... Sorry, if he gets Commander's Horn, he loses. If he gets Yennefer, does he win? I don't think it's enough.
He does get Yennefer, though. He's going to have to take it.
It's 8 units versus... No, it's not going to be enough because it's only small numbers of points. And I mean, yes, you have the 6 and the 1 point body, but I think this is awfully close. Yeah, 67 to 63. So went to Unista, and I do think ultimately that came down to the mulligan.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, playing it safe there. He did find the Slizzard, so he would have been able to pull that Ekimara and get the renew out. I still, yeah, I think that game came down to that, but I still think Redrame made the correct play. And on this occasion, yeah, he lost the game because of it, but play that game out 1,000 times, and I think Redrame's going to win more often than not by making that safer play. So I don't think that just because he lost it makes it the incorrect play, but obviously he's going to be a bit upset about it, I guess.
I think it's easy to say in hindsight, this isn't the right play, but we do see competitive players making safer plays quite often. For example, Freddy Babes, he recently won the Gwent Open, and time again you would see in his mulligan he would make the safe play and opt not to mulligan, for example, on the risk of a Foglet or cards that maybe cost him a couple points. He opted to stick with the safer cards, and you win some, you lose some, and it's very easy to make risky mulligans, say on the ranked ladder where it doesn't matter as much. But when it comes down to $500, you got to decide, how you want to roll it, basically.
Yeah, I almost always prefer the safer play unless you're in really a game-losing situation where you're forced to go for the kind of high-risk play. But I guess if there ever is a time to go for the high risk, it's when you're kind of 2-1 up and you can afford to lose the game. So Redrame will definitely regret making that play. Maybe a bit tilted by it, but at the end of the day, I think he made the correct play, and I don't think he should be too bothered by it.
I think he'll regret it more if he loses this matchup. And speaking of ranked ladder, we have Emir Spies versus King Bran Discard. What an exciting game 5. Oh dear.
Emir Spies, huh? Emir Spies. Oh, it's a good deck to be playing in a game 5. I'll tell you that. You want to be playing. If you could choose a deck to be playing in game 5, you would choose Spies for sure.
But it's not so golden this time around for Redrame. We see only Menno in hand. He does have an Infiltrator to set that up as and how he would like, and he does have Cantarella, so he can maybe opt to use that. But no Summoning Circles, actually probably something that you'd expect him to hold on to. Some people do like to play the Cantarella opener when you have Menno in hand, because it kind of forces your opponent into a tricky situation where they have to decide whether they want to go, 2 cards down or not.
Yeah, it's quite difficult for Spies to play into this kind of matchup, but it's difficult to get the tempo early because Bran has a lot of ways to bring out points quite quickly. But once the Spies get going, the Bran just can't keep up, and especially bad for Unista here that he has to go first.
And you can actually see Unista using a lot of those tempo plays there with the Muzzle, for example, Enforcer being a prime target for Muzzle, along with the Lugos to just kind of try and deny Redrame some of the points that he can rack up, because Enforcers, they do provide, like I said, a lot of value. Saying that, with the 3 Vicavaros in hand, interesting that he's opted to run 3. He can now start to chain units out. And actually, he can choose to resurrect that Imperial Enforcer that he chose to kill with the Nausicaa, which I really like as a play. Yeah,
Resin Imperial Enforcer is not what you want to do all the time, but it's especially when he's got no access to other emissaries in his hand. He needs to get ways to kill these emissaries. So it's totally fine here. You don't want to do it in an ideal world, but
why did he waste 2 points there? He rezzed the... Oh no, because he didn't play a spy. That's why. I was going to say I thought he wasted points, but actually it's not true. When you play the Enforcer, it triggers and shoots, and whenever there's a spy, it also shoots. And typically, you play an Enforcer with a spy, which means it shoots twice. But in this situation, he actually played it with the Resurrect, so it wasn't going to shoot twice. So, correct play by Redrame.
Yeah, Redrame here, he's not found his summoning circle or anything in this game, so that's quite bad for him. But I don't know if Unista is even playing Udalryk. We've seen him play Bran a few times, but we haven't actually seen him play Udalryk, I don't think. So maybe there's not really any combo to play with it. So it might be good that he doesn't have a summoning circle, because there's not really too many good targets for Redrame with his summoning circle in this matchup if he's not using it on the spy. So that might be okay with him. And you can see kind of abusing these Vicovaro medics now and his Imperial Enforcers. No brigades yet, and he is going to have to start killing these emissaries. So
yeah, once you get a couple of them on the board, it's kind of nasty, the number of shots that you get. And you saw he managed to kill Morkvarg, because against a Bran deck, you don't want to injure units, because we can see that Todorok Armorsmith in the back row there. He's just going to fix anything that you damage. So you have to really make sure that you're killing things. And Redrame taking out that Morkvarg triggers a res, which means that it gives Unista a little bit less control of how his Ceres is played.
Yeah, Unista in a bit of trouble here. He's going to have to probably pull his Ceres pretty soon. Yeah, he goes pull it there. But Redrame's still sitting on quite a few powerful plays. The Cantarella getting really strong with these Enforcers out on the board. He's very likely to start finding his Imperial Brigades now as well, getting them out, making Cantarella even better. So it's going to be good for Redrame here. The longer Unista plays this round out, I think the worse it's going to get for him. So he's going to have to consider passing soon, I think. Especially when you can see Redrame starting to ping down that Morkvarg now that Ceres is out.
Yeah, and we see Redrame with the third Vicovaro in hand. Most players, I don't think, actually run 3. Typically, you see 1 or 2. But with the third one in hand there, he's actually guaranteeing all that thinning. And what that means is that going into round 2, he's also going to be drawing into the cards that he wants. He has that Cahir, so should Udalryk be... should Udalryk exist, then he has the option of picking it up. Alternatively, if Unista has Udalryk now and he does play that kind of gives Redrame the round, or an opportunity to play Cantarella. Although then if he plays Cantarella, he does have to kind of think about how he's going to use his summoning circle.
Yeah, we saw in the earlier game that Redrame can kind of thin through his deck by the end of round 2. He might not be able to do it in this game, because we did see him go for Enforcer with his first medic rather than taking the emissary, so he might end up with like 1 card left. But quite an interesting build that he's got here of the spies, playing a seer and basically just thinning his deck right down to 0 in round 2. And I think he'll probably do the same thing again here. He'll probably play out round 2, try and bleed Unista a bit and try and get him to pop his Ceres and hopefully not have enough reses to bring it back out in round 3.
Yeah, Redrame has a lot of control here, taking that round 1, and he actually has the Rain Fawn into the Joachim play. He's got Cantarella in hand and Menno, so he can play Cantarella this round for card advantage, and then see what Unista plays in terms of how he plays his summoning circle, whether he uses it for an extra Cantarella, or whether he just plays the Cantarella, takes the 1 card, Kilak being a prime choice, you wouldn't put that at the bottom of your deck, and deciding kind of how he wants to play that Menno. Yeah,
I think you'll see Redrame go for he's hoping Unista plays a gold tier. Right? He goes in for the Warmonger. So this summoning circle is basically going to be used on a bronze or a silver here. And the problem is most of Unista's silvers are things like Sigdrifa, where they're bringing out targets from the graveyard, so you're not actually getting to summoning circle with Sigdrifa. So this is kind of one of the situations where the summoning circle really kind of lets itself down, and that's probably why you don't see it in many lists, because it's a bit high rolly, and it kind of goes against the way Redrame's been playing, to be honest, having the summoning circle in his deck. But I do think when it works, it's super powerful, so I can understand why he's going for it.
So interesting use of Cahir here. He used it to play the Vicovaro and then took a Priestess, which I believe Unista had discarded. And in doing that, it allowed him to replay his Nausicaa Brigade and then pick it back up with the Cahir effect. So instead of opting to go for the emissaries and thin his deck further, he's kind of guaranteeing that brigade in hand, which means that when he plays Rainfawn into Joachim, although he might not necessarily pull Nausicaa, he can definitely play Nausicaa.
Yeah, it's just kind of the same as doing it with a seer, except you kind of guarantee it in your hand, and you can choose when to play it. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting play. Also blocks the restore as well from Unista if he was going for that with the Freya. I haven't seen Unista use Grimace or anything like that yet, so he's going to have to try and discard another Freya or see if he can find some sort of target for his restore. So I think that's a really good play. Yeah,
I think that in this kind of situation, because Redrame doesn't have to win, he's quite comfortable making that play instead of using the Asir to put it back into his deck, using the Kahir and making a lower tempo play because you're picking up those 9 points. But actually he's opting to play it now. Do you think he'll kill, I guess he'd kill the All Gear just because that's slightly more points than the Cantarella?
Yeah, we'll probably see him go for the All Gear tier. And you see that built that thing up to 13 now. It gives him a chance to actually play the Asir in round 3 before he plays the Joachim. It wouldn't be guaranteed to actually find it, but it might be what he does. The fact that Nausicaa Brigade is now 13, you probably will see him wait with the Asir now into round 3 and just hope he can pull that with the Joachim, because that'll be the same points.
He is sitting on an Infiltrator and 2 Imperial Brigades in deck though, so it might be a little bit tricky.
Yeah. And this is where you see him kind of struggling with this summoning circle. He's not able to find anything really impressive with the summoning circle, and you might just see him throw it out here in round 2 and bleed another card from Unista, just recognising that it's not going to get too much value in this game.
Probably not. I mean, the kind of cards that you'd maybe like it with are the Priestess of Freya, but then, like you said, they resurrect, so that doesn't work. Or a Warmonger would maybe be nice, just to thin his deck by discarding an Imperial Brigade rather than playing it. So yeah. It's a tricky one, because like, what is Unista going to play? Maybe Grimmist?
Well, he's going to have to find Grimmist, or else his restore is going to be really, really weak. You see the Vilgefortz coming out from Redrame, a good draw for him. Probably won't mulligan. I mean, he doesn't want this summoning circle in his hand, but he can't really risk drawn into that Joachim. That would be insanely bad.
Yeah, we've seen him play safe with the mulligan before, and actually, does the summoning circle pull the Raider here or the Warmonger? Because he discarded and then the Razor resurrected, so it would pull a Raider, which you don't really want.
Yeah.
So actually, he'd only be able to get a Warmonger if Unista had discarded something that didn't resurrect.
Yeah, but you see, Unista discarding the Raider suggests that maybe he does have Grimmist in his hand, or else, unless that is the third Freya, or he has all Freyas in his hand. So either he doesn't have, you get a bit of information there, so either he doesn't have Restore in hand, or he has a way to get a target into the graveyard with the rest of his hand.
So with the Seer, I'd imagine we'll see Roach go back in because of all the gold cards in Redrame's hand, and you expect the 13-point Nausicaa Brigade just because it's a fantastic pull if he gets lucky.
Yeah, obviously the Roach goes back in, and probably you might consider going for the Sealak as well as the Nausicaa Brigade, and just not playing the Roach back in, just to give you another kind of chance at getting that Nausicaa Brigade, just because it's so powerful. But we see him put the Roach back in, and this summoning circle is just sitting in his hand, taunting him right now.
I mean, it would give him an Asir, which is 10 points, so it's not completely terrible. You kind of have to think, what is my alternative? What am I going to draw? We see Roach getting burned. This was actually a standard a few metas ago of Vilgefortz burning Roach, back when Roach would come out of your deck whenever you played a gold card and from the graveyard, and getting that Infiltrator onto that Warmonger, which does set up a target for Menno, giving him a 17-point Menno. Yeah,
that's pretty decent, but it's kind of one of the advantages of playing Skellige against Spies is that there's not an insane Menno target really, so it'll be 17 points here, and he's just going to settle for the Harpooner. I think the Harpooner is about as good as he's going to get here with the summoning circle, so I think recognising that this is the time to play it.
For sure. The Vilgefortz are actually quite risky, would you not say, with the Joachim still in the deck. He could have pulled that and then had a 5-point Rainfawn, so he did opt to take a risk there. I mean, we've seen the Scorch come out of Unista, so he didn't have that to fear, but have we seen Coral? I don't think that we have.
Yeah, we haven't seen Coral yet, but I would assume that he's got it in his deck, and that's probably why Redrame went for opened up with the Vilgefortz there, because his only really other proactive play that he had would have been playing Rainfawn into Joachim, and he's recognised that he's got last say, so he can just wait with that Joachim and not open himself up to Coral. and at the end of the day, it was only a 1 in 5 that it pulls Joachim, so that would be extremely unlikely. And then, yeah, you see Unista just coralling now, even though Redrame's very likely to still have the Rainfern and Joachim, just recognising that he's not going to be able to coral last there.
Yeah, so holding that Rainfern, although no longer feeling the need to now. I don't know why you would not play the Menno, though. You're not going to get a better situation, and if you play a big target, sometimes, you know, they might have that one card that counters it. So I think playing the Menno here and then holding the Rainfern is the safe choice. Lacerate comes out, but Rainfern is going to cinch it, I believe, with the Joachim. Is he going to pull that Nausicaa Brigade? No. It doesn't matter.
Oh, 2 points. Damn.
Ooh. That was close.
That was really close. So it was
I didn't expect it to be so close.
Yeah, he had two Imperial Brigades and that Nausicaa Brigade, so it was guaranteed to win, but it was super close though.
And you can see Redrame there looking really quite pleased with his victory in a closely fought 3-2 against the relatively unknown Unista. And what do you think of the decks that they brought, crokeyz?
I think they were relatively standard leaders, but there was a lot of quite interesting decks. You've seen Unista with Scorch and Bork in his hand, so Redrame obviously with the Summoning Circle in his Emir, playing in his interesting golds in the Unseen Elder as well, with the Yennefer and the Germain, stuff like that kind of combo. So yeah, really interesting decks. Quite standard mostly, but with some pretty spicy techs in there.
For sure. I mean, I don't think it was quite on the level of Gono with the Axeman deck, with the Foul Ale, for example. But still, I would say some interesting choices being played by both parties. Unista, actually, though, he did have that Foglet and those Harpies in his Eridan deck. We only saw it played out once, but he made some interesting choices there in regards to not running Riders. And we only got to see it once because, as you can see here, it got banned by both players. But I don't know. How do you feel about this choice, like putting those cards in Eridan?
I don't mind playing the Foglet and the Woodland Spirit in Eridan. I think it's fine. Woodland Spirit's obviously a really good gold. It's another weather for your Drowners. So I think that's totally fine. But the problem with it is obviously Foglet is just another problem mulligan, right? So you've now got your Frosts, you've got Foglets, you've got Slizzards, and you're opening yourself up to kind of high rolling yourself and kind of messing your hand up, which is a bit risky. But I don't mind it. There's not really 4 other kind of standout golds that you would play in Eridan instead. So anything that you would be playing instead of Woodland Spirit is probably going to be on a similar power level anyway. So it's not.
What about those
he's not really missing
though?
out.
That's the one I don't get so much, because typically you want to eat them. I mean, maybe he was running eats. I guess we didn't get to see the Eridan enough in order to really get a read on that. Anyway, next up we'll have the final, so Mago versus Redrame. Who do you think is going to win, crokeyz?
It's a really interesting game. I think they're both insanely good players. Redrame's obviously quite an unknown deck builder. He builds really powerhouse meta decks, as well as he's got some quite interesting meme decks as well, and he's obviously a solid player. He grinds quite a lot. Mago is kind of well known as being a really solid, strong player who doesn't really make too many mistakes, but he just grinds away. And the 2 really good players, and I am not sure who's going to win. I'll have to go with Mago though.
Sounds good. If you want to see more predictions from crokeyz, we actually have an article on the Gwentlemen website for Gwent Slam predictions, which does include crokeyz predictions for Gwent Slam. So if you want to see him predict more tournament games, that is an article that you can check out. But thank you so much for casting, crokeyz. We'll now go back to Crash on the host desk.